What's going on, folks? Kendall here with Renos, Pros and Joes, helping you simplify the renovation and remodeling process. On this channel, we do hands-on product tool and gear reviews, as well as renovation tip and strategy videos like this one. So if you're interested in renovation, remodeling, repair, real estate, or home maintenance, then subscribe, because this channel and this content is for you. So in today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 DIY projects that you can do at home without having to buy or go to the store to get additional supplies. And so the first DIY project that you can do at home is going to be touch-up paint. So if you've done a recent paint project, or maybe even not so recent, but you still got some paint left over that you've stored away, this would be a good time to break that out. First, make sure that it's sealed tightly, and if not, then tighten it down accordingly, and then go ahead and shake it up. You can shake it by hand, or you can use a stir stick if you've got one left over, or if you don't have a stir stick, you can raid your kitchen and use something like a ladle or even a metal or steel spoon to mix it up. Once you've got it good and mixed up and you've got a good consistency with the color being uniform throughout, you can go ahead and wipe your spoon off and clean it up and be ready to start painting. Now, if you're using a flat paint, it's going to be the easiest to touch up out of all of the sheens. If you're using something that's got a more heavy sheen, like an eggshell or something like that on your walls, this is going to be a little bit more difficult to touch up, and you may need to go corner to corner with regards to doing your touch up, which means that you'd paint an entire wall instead of just doing a small section, because frequently you'll be able to see that touch up space if you're going to do a small section with an eggshell or a sheened paint. Also, if you're going to be doing touch-up paint on baseboards and trim and things like that, it's also a good idea to wipe off those surfaces before you begin painting. So if you've got a dust rag, it's a good idea to wipe that down thoroughly. And if it's really dusty, you may want to use a damp cloth to wipe it before you begin to paint. The main thing that you also want to keep in mind is that you want everything to look uniform, and trying to achieve this may require you to paint an entire piece of trim or an entire board as opposed to just painting a small section, because you want everything to look the same and you don't want it to be obvious where you started painting and where you stopped. Okay, on to the second tip, which is going to be under the cabinet sink plumbing inspections. And so underneath your kitchen cabinet as well as your bathroom cabinet, you have a likelihood of developing leaks over time, specifically with the drain area. And one of the reasons why this can occur is because we frequently store all types of things down here. Everything from health and beauty supplies to cleaning supplies to appliances, and sometimes even food. And in the process of storing things down here, we frequently have a tendency to kind of push things in there and shove them in there. And when we do this, you can easily bump or jostle the plumbing, which can cause a leak to develop over time. And one of the reasons why an under cabinet plumbing leak can be such a bad thing is because we have doors on these cabinets, and so frequently the leak goes unnoticed for long periods of time. Additionally, we frequently don't like to go underneath there to inspect everything anyway. So this is a great time to do this. Start by opening up your cabinets and taking all of the contents out so that you have a clear view of everything that's underneath that cabinet from a plumbing perspective. We're focusing on the drain system, regardless of whether or not you've got brass or you've got PVC or CPVC. We want to be able to make sure that we can see everything. So once we've got everything out of there, we want to turn the water on full blast. We want to look down below to see if we see any leaks whatsoever. So after you let the water run for a while, and you don't see any leaks, then you can turn the water off. The next thing that you want to do is plug up your sink and then turn the water back on and allow the sink to fill up. Once you've filled up the sink, then you want to hit the drain on it and let the water drain out all at one time. Now we want to check again to make sure that you don't have any leaks. If you've done all this and you don't see any leaks, you're probably good to go, and you can move on with the next step, which is going to be putting all of your possessions back underneath the kitchen sink or the bathroom sink and moving on to the next project. And so the third project that we have is one that may or may not be one that's up your alley. It's going to be yard work. And so springtime is here, and it's an excellent time to get out there in the yard, clean out those flower beds and planter boxes and things like that, to remove all the weeds and things like that that have grown over the off season during the winter and in the fall. Also, if you've still got leaves on the ground, or you've got straw and things like that that have fallen from bushes and trees, it's also an excellent time to go ahead and get those things cleaned up. Use your rake or your blower or whatever you've got to get those things up. Additionally, if you live somewhere where you've got trees and things like that, and you've had limbs and things like that fall during the season, this would be an excellent time to get out that chainsaw or that hacksaw and hack up those limbs and stack them neatly at the street. for them to be picked up. Or if you're in an area where you don't have this type of service, then still cut them up and stack them neatly. Just make sure that you do it far enough away from the house where you don't have to be concerned with bugs and things like that. Okay, so on to the next DIY project that you can do at home without having to go to the store. And this one is specifically for my folks who do their own pest control. So DIY pest controllers, this is an excellent time for you to go ahead and get out your chemicals and your mixes and your sprayers and things like that, and go ahead and apply a treatment to your property. Make sure to go around the perimeter of your property, as well as give some attention to doorways and windows where pests are known to come into the property. Also, you want to make sure that when you complete your treatment to remove all of your clothes and don't wear them back into the house. Also, ideally, you want to go ahead and wash those clothes as soon as possible. Also, leave those shoes outside. On to the next and final tip. So if you've been home for long enough, you may finally be motivated enough to start doing some spring cleaning. And one place that you can start is going to be in your refrigerator and freezer. One of the things that you can do is start by removing all the contents from your refrigerator and putting them on the counter. And then you want to go in that refrigerator and do a deep clean. You want to wipe down everything, all of your drawers, doors. You can even remove shelves and wipe those down, or rinse them out with some warm water and some soap. And once you've got everything cleaned up the way that you want it, put everything back together, and then it's time to start doing an overall assessment of all the things that you've got in there. So I'm sure that you probably have some old condiments and things like that that are no longer being used, you don't plan to come back to. Don't put those back in there. Go ahead and discard those. If you find some old fruits and vegetables and things like that that are going to be too far gone for you to be able to salvage, go ahead and get rid of those things too. So make sure that when you put everything back, you want to make sure that you put only things in there that you're actually going to use. Also, if you're going to be doing some spring cleaning, another thing that's an awesome time to do is going to be everything from dust mopping to vacuuming to wet mopping. Floors, baseboards, ceiling fans, etc. These are all tasks that you can complete without making any special trips to the store. Now, for the next tip, we're going to go back to one of my earlier tips with regards to looking for your under the cabinet plumbing leaks and things like that. Let's go back and revisit that for just a moment. Now, when you finish doing your plumbing inspections and you've shored up any loose drain pipes and things like that, don't rush to put everything back underneath the cabinet. Let's take a moment and look at what we've got here and make sure that we don't have any supplies and appliances and cleaning supplies and health and beauty supplies that we no longer need. You want to go through and do an assessment of what you're going to actually use and what you can go ahead and discard. So you can go ahead and pick through those beauty supplies and those cleaning supplies. Some of those things may be outdated, or maybe things that you just no longer plan to use. No need to put those back underneath the counter or cabinet. You want to go ahead and get those out of there. And so now that you whittle down your under the cabinet contents down to just what you need, you now want to make sure that when you put those items back, that you put them back in there in an organized way that is more neat and tidy than the way that you probably found them. So if you recently found yourself spending a lot more time at home than you normally do, then do your best to try to enjoy your time at home. I know this may be easier said than done, but you can also break up time by stepping outside and taking walks in the park, or just stepping outside to get a breath of fresh air. This can really help you to clear your mind. Additionally, it's also an excellent time to use that phone to talk to friends and use features like video chat to stay connected. If you live with other people, be sure to try to give them some space from time to time and don't run them up a wall. Hopefully you found this video informative. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one.